Hello, Wizard World. Hey, and Whovian fans. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you're tuning in from. Welcome to our Wizard World virtual experience, and we have a great experience lined up for you. Um, we're here to celebrate Doctor Who, over 5 decades of Doctor Who, and we've got an incredible panel of talent that has joined us from different generations of series of Doctor Who, and so we're very excited to get to that. So my name is Tony Kim. I'm the owner of Hero Within, a sophisticated geek fashion apparel company. You can find us at herowithinstore.com. But just before we get started, I just want to let you know that you again are joining the Wizard World virtual experience, and we're being streamed live on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Bringing Comic-Con live to the comfort of your own home with celebrity-free panels, in addition to paid exclusive experiences, including one-on-one private video chats, custom recording messages, and autographs. Those are always on sale at wizardworldvirtual.com and will continue to be so throughout the week. So if you're watching a replay, definitely check it out. These once-in-a-lifetime experiences with your favorite cast members. Also, don't forget to check out our signed memorabilia and works of art that's from our favorite artists and vendors from previous virtual experiences and physical conventions that can all be found at wizardworldvault.com. And so, but hey, let's get started with this. My first guest that's joining us on our virtual stage, please welcome to the stage, Neve McIntosh.
Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Hi. Yeah, very well.
We have to let everyone know what part of the world are you calling in from?
I'm here in my little house in London at the moment. Great. Yep. So I've been here for the past few months.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
And next joining our call is Katrin Stewart.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, wifey. It's you.
Great couple, yeah. Katrin, where are you calling in from?
I'm actually in London. I'm just down the road from Neve. She's 20 minutes-ish away. We're in northeast London.
Oh, right on.
It's a hot day today.
Yeah, very hot today.
Yeah.
And then next we have Ian McNeice.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hello, Ian.
Hello. How are you? Hi.
Hey.
Ian, where are you tuning in from?
I'm also in London, but I'm in the west part of London, sort of southwest, on the way to Heathrow Airport.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you.
And next joining our panel is Tracy Oberyn. Hello. Good evening to you. And or wait, where are you calling in from? Let's establish that first.
Oh, centre of London, North London.
There you go. Well, thank you for joining us as well.
Pleasure.
And next joining us is Samuel Oatley.
Hello. You all right?
Good. And where are you tuning in from?
I'm dialing in from southeast London. So we've got a bit of the London eclectic here, it would seem.
Covering it all. So thank you for joining us.
We are.
And then we have David Morrissey joining us to the stage. Hello, David. David, where are you calling it from?
I'm actually in Ian McNeice's basement, and I've been here for the last
he won't let you out.
3 months. He won't let me out. He just pushes food under my door every 2 seconds. It's terrible. Trying to fatten me up.
Very well, you look good, regardless.
Thank you very much.
Good and
thank you. He's a very kind jailer.
And next to the stage is Dean Lennox Kelly. Dean?
Yo.
There you go.
Yay.
Hello, Dean.
I did it.
All right. Dean, are you also calling in from London?
No, I'm in the Cotswolds.
Oh,
lucky boy.
that is better than London.
The
There's
green
poo
belt.
everywhere.
What?
Cow poo, dog poo, horse poo, sheep poo.
What
Round
part
For
of the
those of us
Cotswolds?
on the other side of the pond, we don't know exactly where that is. What can you?
It's a very beautiful part of the country, kind of Oxfordshire, in between Oxfordshire and Wales, I think.
What town are you in? What town?
I'm actually in Painswick at the moment.
Right.
What I like is it actually looks like you're on the run because you're hiding. It's almost like you're hiding in the corner somewhere.
Well, you've hit onto something. I broke into my local pub because the signal's awful in my house.
You're in a pub on your own.
I saw there was a window open.
That's great.
All right, we have a couple more guests to join in. Let's welcome the Seventh Doctor himself, Sylvester E. McCoy.
Hooray!
Hang on. I'm gonna press that.
Hello.
Bonsoir, mesdames, messieurs, and all you.
Sylvester, where are you calling in from?
I'm Upper Midi-Pyrenees in France. Yeah, I was on my way home to England, but the president of France put me under house arrest. So I've been here for 3 or 4 months. It's brilliant. I've had a great time. I'm in a village so old. This village is so medieval. My next door neighbor is Richard the Lionheart. He was put under house arrest on the way back from the Holy Land.
All right, and then of course, after Sylvester, we have to introduce your companion, Sophie Aldred. Sophie, are you there?
Ooh.
Sophie is here. All right.
Hey.
Hello. Click your video button, and you'll be on the stage with us. Hello.
Hi,
welcome. What part of the world are you calling in from?
Hertfordshire.
Excellent.
Hertfordshire, which is just about, it's northeast northwest of London. I don't even know where I am. You see, I could make it up, couldn't I?
Plus ça change.
Yeah, well, I know where you are. Bonjour, monsieur. Comment ça va?
Ça va, oui, ça va bien. Et vous? Et tu?
Oui, très bien, merci.
Magnifique.
And to round off our panel, we have Ross Mullen.
Hey.
Hello, Ross.
I'm coming to you straight from Southeast London.
Oh, there you go.
Southeast London.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you all for joining us again. I know that we're living in a crazy world, regardless if you're in the whatever part of the world you're in. It's been a crazy time right now. What many of us are turning to during quarantine and pandemics are be able to watch incredible shows like Doctor Who. Doctor Who has an incredible legacy over 5 decades. It has touched so many people's lives, so many generations, and it has inspired so many new genres and so many new properties. And so we're going to spend some time sharing a little bit about each year's experiences. We'll answer some questions, and so we're very excited to jump in on this. But my first question is, once you're a part of the Doctor Who legacy, it's like a very exclusive sort of club. And but let me ask you specifically, and this is just to the general group, what is it do you think that has allowed Doctor Who to sort of grow and sort of expand and proliferate over over 50 years? Like, what do you think it has been? So many, as you guys know, who've all been in the acting industry, it's not only tough to get a show on the air, but it's tough to get a show to last more than a season or two. And so to see something like Doctor Who that has spanned so many generations, to you, what is it that has made Doctor Who so special to endure the test of time? And so maybe I'll have Sylvester. Can you kick us off on that question, Sylvester?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what this popularity of Doctor Who is, it's one of, they say there are 7 stories under the sun, and mankind's genius is to retell them to us continuously. And I think Doctor Who is one of those stories. It's a story of someone who comes from outside the world, down into it, takes on the visage of a human being and fights against evil. Religions, many of them, have been formed with it. But it's one of those stories we love to hear again and again and again, because it's part of the 7.
Excellent. Anyone else?
Yeah, that's a brilliant answer. And I love the idea that there are only these few stories. And but I think also there's, I mean, you know, to sort of that's the kind of context for Doctor Who, I think. And then to sort of add into the mix, there's where else have you got a show that can be set anywhere, anytime, with any actors? You know, it's just like it's an open book for writers, for actors, for directors, for everybody. And I think that's part of it. And then within that, you've got these few men and now women who have played this extraordinary role, who are in themselves. You can just put your fingers in your ears, Sylv, for a moment, please. Anyway, who are the most extraordinary people in their own right. You know, they are extraordinary people, and they bring something incredibly special of themselves to the role. And if you look at everybody who's ever played the Doctor, there's just something magical about them as a person as well as an actor. So I think that's got something to do with it as well.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Neve and Katrin, I'm going to start with Katrin. I'm going to start with you two. Can you tell us how you came into your roles, and were the roles like fully formed, or was it something that sort of shaped along the way?
Yeah, I mean, it did kind of shape coming along the way. I mean, I'd already played 2 other Silurians before Mr. Moffat came up with the idea to create Vastra, sort of the bad guy turned good as well, sort of the bad girl turned good. So yeah, I think they kind of grew. I don't know what you think, Katrin, didn't they? It was like every time we got a new script or we got invited to come back, he'd added something extra to our relationship and to sort of our little band, our little Paternoster band.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I auditioned for it, it was just to play Madame Vastra's maid.
Yeah.
There was a little storyline, but it was just 1 episode. And then the 3 of us with Strax were quite popular with the fans. And yeah, we got asked back. They just kept writing us back, and we'd get about 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And luckily we were all free every time, or just about. And each time, like Neve said, the stories just got more exciting and stronger as us as characters and as our relationships. But me and Neve had worked together before, so
yeah, we'd done some theatre before, hadn't we?
Yeah, so it was nice to get to play whatever we are, wives, lovers.
Yeah.
Ian, how about you? You know, not being from the UK, from just a pure Western perspective, you know, just a brilliant portrayal of Winston Churchill. And, you know, whenever someone brings up Winston, I immediately think of you. And so tell us about how that role came.
Yeah, well, I was working actually at the National Theatre in London doing a play. It was a play about Harold Macmillan, our Prime Minister, played by Mr. Jeremy Irons, and I was playing Winston Churchill, and the casting director from Doctor Who and the director came along to see the show because they were looking for a Winston, and goodness me, that's how I got invited back in to do it, and I was absolutely thrilled. So I played it first of all with Matt Smith, and then they invited me back again a second time to work with Matt, and it was then that I realized that really that I was just, you know, I was just talking to a man. Winston was talking to a man with a green face. And I thought, you know what? Winston can come back at any time now. At any time. So that was really how it all started with Winston.
How was it being boarded up?
You know what? It was a real... I actually shaved my head. I shaved my head. I took all my hair off and shaved my head. And there was because his hairline was halfway back his head. So I had to do that, so I had to shave my head, and then they put a half wig on to make it look like the real thing, which is good. The other hysterical thing was that when we were doing the show, we shot it in just outside of Cardiff in a studio there, but it was non-smoking. So I went, but Winston smokes a cigar. Come on, boys, he's got to have a cigar. So they created, the special effects people created what was, I suppose, an early vapor type of thing. And that's how my cigar was a vapor. So that was pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
What about you? What about your booze intake, Ian?
Oh God, I never stopped all the way through. It was real whiskey for me all the way through. You can tell because I slurred towards the end of the show every time.
Well, that's why Winston saw little green men quite a lot, I would imagine.
Oh, we saw many green men. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Tracy, very few characters have a chance to surprise the Doctor, and Yvonne Hartman was able to introduce the Doctor's Torchwood and just basically reveal sort of that whole world to him, and so which Torchwood really became a very integral part of the Doctor Who legacy. And so, how did that role come about, and what was that experience like?
No, that was great. I've always been a Doctor Who fan from when I was little, so I was like an early doors Whovian, and I got sent this script from Russell asking if I liked Doctor Who, and I was practically wetting myself with excitement. I was like, "Like it, I love it!" And then he said, "I've got a part for you in mind." So it was the two-parter. It was David's. It was the last 2 episodes of David's first series, and it introduced Torchwood. It sort of split David and Billy's character up, and it was where it was Doomsday and Army of Ghosts. So not only did I have the Doctor and the TARDIS and the Sonic Screwdriver, I also had the Cybermen and the Daleks, and I was like the head of it. It was incredible. And then they said, don't tell anybody that you're in it, because so it had confidential written on every single page. And because it was everything shot out of order, it was actually David's first set of shooting as the Doctor.
Oh, wow.
He was so excited. So it was a real joy to be part of. And so and it was a great character.
Sam, your character, Tim Shaw, was like very rich, very like layered character. Tell us about how you came about to be casted as in that role.
Well, I'd actually just finished my show reel, or my new show reel, and I hadn't really sent it out to many people at all. I used to be very, very proactive, and at the time I was with an agent that sort of very much encouraged me not doing that. So I decided to grab the bull by the horns and start sending stuff out. I sent it out to casting directors that hadn't seen for a while. And Andy Pryor was one of them, who'd always really been quite supportive for me, but I hadn't seen him for a while. So I pinged him the show reel. And the next week I got a call from my agent saying, Andy's asked to see you for Doctor Who. And I got sent the script, and I thought, oh my Lord, what am I going to do with this? Because obviously the character it's very hard to sort of, you look at the breakdown of what they want from it, and your mind starts whirling. I think the problem sometimes that we do, or sometimes the problem we get into as actors, is trying to do too much with stuff, trying to, push a vision or whatever too firmly. So I just kind of decided to focus on a few things that stuck in my mind about the character. The voice was the first thing that I thought straight away of the voice of the character. And then just tried to play him as simply as I could other than that. And so I went to the audition. I focused a lot on stillness, just in being still, and just focusing on the voice and the way he used the words, because obviously he wouldn't have spoke English before. So I really wanted to play around with how he used the language and the sounds. And they seemed to really like what I did. And the next day, I got a call the next day asking if I'd do it, and which was lovely, because they hadn't sure what they wanted. They were looking for people that was like near 7 foot tall or something. So suddenly, I'm 6'1", so I'm not small or in that respect. But they were looking for big, imposing individuals. But obviously the things that I'd come up with seemed to work. So it was great.
Excellent. And David, I'm not used to seeing you without an eye patch. But you played a very unique character in the history of Doctor Who, Jackson Lake, a character who, a doctor, not a doctor, and just a brilliant performance, so much energy, so much life, and it looked like it was so much fun to shoot. And so tell us about how that role came about for you, and how the I would imagine many challenges playing basically a new Doctor, even though he wasn't an actual Doctor.
Yeah, I did the Christmas special, so of course we filmed it in February, and it was crazy. And it was called The Next Doctor, and it was about a guy who thought he was Doctor Who, although he was mortal. And he meets David Tennant's Doctor, who comes down to Earth, and it's all set in Victorian London. And it was great fun to do. But it was just, the weird thing was, just after we shot it, and it was called The Last Doctor, David announced that would be his last season. So all these rumors came out that that I was going to be the next Doctor, and that was really weird. And Russell phoned me up and said, "Look, these rumors are going to start, and just don't tell anyone. Just don't tell anyone it's not you." And I said, "Okay."
Oh gosh,
thanks for that. And then I said, "Okay." I said, "But I can tell my kids, can't I?" And he said, "No, because they'll go to the playground and they'll tell their mates, and given where you live, most of their parents are sort of not London journalists and stuff. So the rumor will get out. So you can't even tell your kids." So my kids for about 9 months were saying, "Are we moving to Cardiff?" So it was really crazy. But I sort of got a taste of what it must be like for, everybody who plays that role, because there was suddenly like photographers in the gardens down the road and stuff like that, and I didn't handle that very well. So yeah, but it was a great show to do. It was a show that I'd really wanted to do. Most of the dramas I'd done, my kids couldn't watch, so it was great to do something that my kids could watch, and I loved it. And I have to say, for me, and I'm sure this is true of everybody, really, is the leading actor. For me, it was David Tennant, but I know this is true of all the other actors who've played the role. They lead from the front. They really do set the example of how you get to work and how you go to work and how they conduct themselves on the set, how they treat everybody. And that David was so professional, but also just so great to work with. And it made everything really easy to do and pleasant to do. And that's not always the case on lots of other dramas. But on this, it really is a real team and family effort. And I love that atmosphere.
Thank you so much, Dean. Of course we had Winston Churchill, but you played another iconic character, William Shakespeare. I got to think that was very intimidating to portray him on Doctor Who. What was that like, and how did you get cast for
that? Yeah, well, the way it was pitched to me was he wanted it played like a kind of a rock star in his own time. And actually the director said to me, he's a bit of a Liam Gallagher in his time, which, if I'd have played it like Liam Gallagher, we'd have had a completely different show. And I don't think David Tennant would have allowed that. So it was a little bit intimidating because of, just how big the show was. But, if someone's going to cast you, then you must think you're all right in that, you know what I mean? And I put a little bit of that, I put the eyeliner on and I, did my thing and did a few high kicks and got away with it. I mean, I think I could have done better with the role. I look back on it and think I was intimidated acting with David, actually, to be honest with you, because he is so good and his energy and his pace, it was quite hard to keep up with him. So I felt quite intimidated acting with David. And my first night was on the actual Globe stage. We filmed the kind of end first, as you do. And there was one line where I say, "Banished like a tinker's cuss, I say to thee." But, I just thought banish Ed sounded better. So I kept saying, "Banish Ed like a tinker's cuss, I say to thee." And of course, I was completely out of the iambic pentameter, and playing Shakespeare, you'd think that was the first thing you'd nail. So I did a few takes, and the director had already said to me, he said, "Listen, I know nothing about Shakespeare, so you're kind of on your own with the Shakespearean text." And I did about 5 takes, and then David Tennant came up to me, "Can I just have a word?" And we're rolling. What's David? He said, I don't want to say what he actually said, but I don't want to be a I don't want to be a, but it's actually banished because of the rhythm. It's not banished. You're making it. I went, oh, thank you. Action. Thanks, David. And off I went. Thank you, Ian. Thank you. That's my one story.
Great story.
It is a good one. It is. We didn't stay in touch, me and David. But I did say to him, I said, well, you know, there can't be my favourite actor in the world is David Morrissey, and David knows that. So, you know.
Oh my God!
Not that we've.
The check's in the post. The check's in the post, mate.
Oh my God! Get down in the basement and be quiet now. In the basement, quiet now.
Carry on like this, and you get banished.
I want me food. I want me food.
Ross, you've had a chance to play several interesting characters: the Silent, the Teller, the Wraith. Out of those, did you have a favorite character to portray?
Well, weirdly, my first character that I played for Doctor Who was the Doctor Who Prawns. I was the Ice Warrior. And after that, they invited me to play the Silence. Yeah, I guess once a monster, always a monster, right? I had auditioned for Doctor Who for a number of years on and off, but it wasn't until like I played the White Walker on Game of Thrones and it made a little bit of an impact. Yeah, I loved playing the Teller probably the most. It was probably the Doctor Who episode that I understood the best because it was so based around a bank heist, really. And I got to work with a great cast and all. You know, it was, as ever, it's a great team. Although the Teller was a hotter, kind of more heavier suit to wear. But the Silence, without a doubt, is, you know, the favorite amongst the people who are most afraid of me. You know, I get the most comments of, you've kept me up at night. I wasn't able to sleep. So I'd have to say, you know, the Silence is probably my favorite.
I know for myself, of course, the Weeping Angels are way up there, but the Silence has to be.
Yeah, the Weeping Angels, I would say, if I was to choose one that was not my character, I find them very creepy.
Yeah. And we do have a question we'll get to hopefully about the things like prosthetics and just the challenges that comes with, I know, like Neve and others, like the challenges that comes with acting within that. But Sylvester, tell us about how you had an opportunity to embody the Seventh Doctor, and what was that like?
Well, it was great, really, because I knew nothing about Doctor Who when I got it, because I'd been working in the theatre for years. There were no recordings. It was never repeated. So when I arrived with a bunch of comedy tricks, and it started off as a kind of a Chaplin-esque Doctor, and then realised I'd been handed one of the great TV roles in the world, because this character could go anywhere, do anything. And at the same time, I had a granny who got to 100, which in those days was, you know, very unusual. And she was very old, and my doctor was 950. And I got from her the sadness of old age and the tragedy. And I thought, I've got to bring all this into the Doctor. I've got to get this stuff in. He's been around all this time. He's seen terrible things as well as wonderful things. And so also, I wanted to bring back the mystery, because it seemed the mystery had gone. So luckily, the script editor, Andrew Cartmel, and he didn't know anything about Doctor Who. We were brilliant. We had no idea that all this baggage that we should have been respecting. So we had no respect for it, and we just got on with it. And that's how it came along, really.
Excellent. And then Sophie, the companion is such a huge responsibility, and it's something that is very obviously goes hand in hand with the each iteration of the Doctor. And so tell us how you came about to play Ace.
My goodness. Well, it's a long story, but I won't go into it all because Sylvester will fall asleep. He's heard it so many times. But anyway, yeah, basically, I'd never done any TV before. I never even had a screen test for Doctor Who. It was just like I was in the back row of the chorus in Fiddler on the Roof at the Opera House up in Manchester, and they wanted somebody who could ride a motorbike and who looked younger than they really were. And I fell into those categories. So went and had an audition, and then a couple of weeks later I got a recall and went and met the producer for about 10 minutes, John Nathan Turner, and he got me to read a part of the script, and then kind of gave me a few notes, and I read it again. And I'm convinced that one of the reasons I got the part was my agent had written "has own levers" on the back of my publicity photo. And so, you know, although I never got to ride a motorbike, at least if I had, I could have worn my own levers. So yeah, and I mean, it was just one of those things in those days. The producer just took a punt, and I never was in front of a camera before, and it was just incredible, really. It was I owe it all to him, to John Nathan Turner, and his kind of instinct, I think.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, we have a few questions from our fans. Before that, let me just do a little quick Wizard commercial. Hey, fans, don't forget that you're watching this live, or you'll be watching it later on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Check out those paid exclusive experiences like the one-on-one private video chats, the autographs, the custom videos, recorded messages at wizardworldvirtual.com. So definitely check that out. And so a question came in from Noah. Let's see, this is for specifically Sylvester and Sophie. Did you enjoy working on the Big Finish? And they also want to know if there's any plans after this whole crazy pandemic is hopefully over soon, any plans to come to America, because he, as well as a lot of fans, would love to see you. So go for it.
Well, yes, Big Finish was great because one of the brilliant things was you didn't have to learn the lines, because sometimes, I mean, some of the speeches they gave Doctor Who were just incomprehensible. I still don't know what I was talking about half the time, but I could read it. And also, what I loved about it was that you could become much more internal. You know, television, obviously it has to be physical, you have to these things has to be seen. But I love to get into the radio acting, where you come right inside and you can be very, very kind of thoughtful. And I just, you know, I enjoyed that immensely. Yeah. And the food is to die for.
I was going to say, how about the food? Yeah.
Yeah.
We all love the food, don't we?
Yeah. It's fabulous.
The
good lunches.
Yeah.
The money's terrible.
Legendary.
And it's all made by Toby, who does all the engineering and the sound and the everything. And then
he's miraculous.
Sorry?
He's miraculous, isn't he? I mean, it's what he does.
He's a wizard. He goes off about 15 minutes before we break for lunch, and you suddenly start getting really hungry and thinking, oh, great. And then he goes into this tiny room and conjures up this miraculous feast.
I think it's like the TARDIS, Sophie. It looks tiny, but you know, it goes in, it becomes a huge kitchen, because the amount of stuff that he serves is impossible in such a tiny wee place.
Yes, absolutely. And everything that Sylvester said, it's great to be able to hone your performance into your voice as well. That's what I love about it. And just really, and also the Big Finish, the scripts are amazing. You can go anywhere, again, really anywhere in space and time, because there's no sets to build, and it's all in the imagination of the listener.
And the actors we get as well are as good as the ones we got when we were on screen. Yes. We had, there's a guy very much like Churchill. Although we also had another guy who looked
It was
like
me.
Dr.
It was me, for goodness sake. I was Churchill with you. Yes. Good. Thanks a lot for that, Sylvester. Great. Marvellous. You remember me.
No, you were wonderful. I believe.
Thank you so much. It was me.
I thought they dubbed Churchill up. You were so right for it, really. But, I mean, we also had a Nazi played by David Tennant in it. Yeah, he was a Nazi. That other actor earlier who was talking with me, very pleased to hear that, actually.
So, you know, Doctor Who is synonymous with creature design and aliens and so much creativity since the very beginning of the show. For Neve and Samuel and Ross playing Vastra and Tim Shaw and the Silent and others. What were some of the challenges of playing with in such, elaborate makeup and design? What was that like?
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yeah, or you can't hear properly because
Yeah.
everything's just covered over your ears. That was hard sometimes. You wanted to do a really nice, subtle, low-key scene or something.
Who had the longest?
And you're like standing there and you don't hear a cue. So
who had the longest in makeup?
Mine was about 3.5 hours. I don't know. What about you guys?
I'm not too bad with makeup. Mine was more animatronic head that was super heavy. The Teller outfit was really challenging to put on. It took about 3 people and it took about 45 minutes, just fiddly. But not heavy makeup, not like I had for, say, Game of Thrones, which was like 6 hours.
Oh, hell.
Gosh.
But I couldn't keep the silence on for very long. The head can only stay on for about 20 minutes and then you start really, hyperventilating and, it's like terrible in that regard.
Wow. Yeah, we got, Dan and I, when we were in the makeup, because it took quite long, and once we were actually putting the face part on, it was quite easy. They would just push us back into our chairs and we'd actually have a nap.
Yeah.
I think the makeup guys liked that because we weren't talking and moving around. They could get their work done. Well, we just, and then wake us up with a cup of tea. They were awesome, the guys from Millennium.
Sammy, how about you?
Yeah, no, very much the same as what the guys are saying. I mean, for me, the prosthetic itself was nice to work with. Actually, I'd never done anything like that before in my career. And to be honest, I was completely naive to the fact that creature performing was actually a real, had a real big part in the industry. I didn't know enough about it. And the respect I have for that sector of the industry is incredible now, because having lived in it for those 2 episodes and know that people have like these highly successful careers as creature performers doing, and in a lot harder circumstances than I was in. It's incredible to think what these people can do and how they tell these stories through these characters. I mean, the difficulties I had were more to do with the armor than the prosthetic, because they wanted the character to be very agile and they wanted him jumping around and running a lot and stuff. I had lots of my armor would slip through the day. And so the costume, as Ross is saying, very, very heavy, and it would slip and slide. And then obviously as you're running and trying to run, you're getting bits of armor that are jabbing into the back of your kneecaps or in your knee area. And so it's very hard to do some of the scenes they're asking, but that was my only real difficulty with the outfit. Other than that, I loved it because you just become this thing without having to do anything.
Yeah.
The work that these people do behind the scenes, creating the armor and the prosthetic, does the job for you. So then you can just focus on other aspects of how you want to bring it to life. So it's quite a privilege, really. It feels like it's a lovely thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
When I was Doctor Who, we did a spin-off, which was a celebration of the unsung heroes of Doctor Who, which were all the actors like yourselves who played the behind the masks, because I admired them so much. And it was so hard what they had to do. The first story we did, we had ones called Tech Traps, and they were kind of bats, and they used to hang the actors upside down in their costume, and we had to act underneath it, and the sweat was dripping on us.
Yeah, the sweating is one thing as well.
Yeah, do you fancy that?
Another distinctive aspect of Doctor Who is, and I think several of you guys like Dean and David have already mentioned this, chemistry and just how important it is to, I think the chemistry, in scenes really has shaped the, how incredible Doctor Who has been over the years. And so I'd love to hear maybe from Tracy and Katrin and Ian about how some of the challenges, as well as some of the things that just work chemistry-wise with your counterparts, with your characters.
Well, for me, I knew David before anyway, and I knew how happy that he was to be cast as the Doctor. So it was lovely to be up there and to sort of be part of his joy. And also, it was such an odd it was such an odd episode, particularly that first one, Army of Ghosts, because we had this big green screen orb that housed all the Daleks and the Cybermen, and it was very exciting. But there was because he was, as David said, because he was so happy, he led from the front, and you know sometimes you found yourself saying the most ridiculous, odd sci-fi things, and the scripts were so dense, but the world itself is so believable, and everybody puts in so much commitment to it, from crew and writing, that it's a joy, complete joy.
Yeah, we were made to feel really welcome on set. Like we we had Matt Smith for a few episodes, and just like you were saying, Sophie, like I think someone else was saying about the doctors, he just was such an amazing team player, and like made us feel really welcome. And then the three of us, me, Neve and Dan, the Paternoster gang, we're really lucky. We all get on really well, and we've actually been spending more time together recently doing the Big Finish stuff. So it's been really nice, because we haven't filmed Doctor Who for quite a few years now, but it's nice to like get back together and find that chemistry again with the audio series. Yeah.
Working with Matt Smith on the show that I did with Winston Churchill, it was only the second one that he'd done as the Doctor. So he was still finding his feet to a certain extent, but his invention and his just enthusiasm for playing the character and trying this way, trying that way was extraordinary. It was just a joy to watch him do it, really. And then to actually come back a second time and work with him, it was like welcoming an old friend. I do remember there was one point he was at home watching TV, and he rang up his partner. For goodness sake, who's the partner that I was working with? Come on, tell me, help me here.
Karen
or Arthur?
Say again?
Karen Gillan?
Helen, absolutely. Karen Gillan, that's right. Goodness me, I had a brain freeze at that point. So anyway, apparently he was watching TV and he suddenly rang her up and said, "Hey, it's McNeice. He's on Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. Working with a movie star here." So that was really sweet coming in. And he said that. That was lovely.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left. I'd love to hear, as we sort of wrap, one question that's, whenever I meet another Whovian, whether it's individually or as a group, everyone always has their doctor. Who's their doctor? And so, Sylvester, this isn't fair because you are everyone's doctor. But apart from Sylvester, who would you say is your doctor? Like, who would you, who's someone that whether you grew up with or in a more modern era? Is there a favorite doctor for any one of you guys?
Oh, sorry. Patrick Troughton. I saw him years ago. In the old days, we used to sit in a bed sit, waiting for the football pool results to come out. And then one day we carried on watching the television, and Doctor Who came on, and it was Patrick Troughton. And that's when I fell in love with Doctor Who. But then I lost touch halfway through Tom, because I became an actor. Well, I started running around on the stage and shouting.
How could you possibly ask me to choose?
I know. It's terrible.
Yes.
Apart from Sylvester, apart from the 7, let's just say, anybody else?
I think for me, growing up, because it was Tom Baker was the one that I came into the season with.
Yeah.
And he was the one that I saw, and he was so eccentric. And so, I mean, it was just about my age. And when I came into the show, he was the first Doctor I saw, and he was completely bonkers. And he hasn't changed. But I think that was the tone of the show for me when I saw that. And that's been, all the Doctors have had their level of bonkeredness. But he was the first one for me.
For me, it was Tom Baker too, because I actually I worked with him on a Big Finish show, and it was outside of London. It was I had to travel on a train for 2 hours outside of London, And I turned up at this place, and why are we doing it outside of London? It wasn't until Tom Baker came through the door in his pajamas, because he only lived 5 minutes away, and that's why we were doing it down there. And he was just a joy to work with, so that was lovely.
I remember I was very young, and my next door neighbour Mark used to watch Doctor Who, and I'd go over on a Saturday. And I remember the episode where the spider jumped on the back of John Pertwee and turned him into Tom Baker. It was really traumatic and exciting, and
Wow.
kind of fear, horror, shock, and the scarf. And I was hooked. So Tom is very much my Doctor.
Yeah, I grew up, and I remember that exact same story, the Planet of the Spiders, wasn't it? And then it turns. That's what I remember. That's how I got my first earliest. And so I grew up watching Tom Baker, and then, haven't really stopped, actually.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. And so I know that this went by quickly. I just wanted to say thank you all for your unique contributions to Doctor Who. And we're excited that the adventure continues, and we hope in some way, shape, or form we'll get a chance to be reintroduced to you in some way in the Doctor Who history. And so thank you so much for joining us. I want to welcome off the stage. I want to thank Niamh McIntosh, Katrin Stewart, Ian McNeice, Tracy Overman, Samuel Oatley, David Morrissey, Dean Kelly, Sylvester McCoy, Sophie Aldridge, and Ross Mullen. Thank you all for joining us so much. And I want to tell all of our fans, thank you for joining us for this Doctor Who panel. Make sure to check out all those paid exclusive experiences, like the one-on-one private chats, the autographs, custom video recorded messages at wizardworldvirtual.com. And for geeky, sophisticated, and officially licensed apparel, you can always check out my company at herewithinstore.com. We have some upcoming panels. Stick around for our artist Q&A with Sophie Aloy at 1 p.m. and the Vampire Diaries fan panel at 4 p.m. And then also we have some awesome panels coming up, some awesome experiences. June 19th, we have Lost with Kato Kalin. And June 20th, we have Dragon Ball Z. June 22nd, Legacies. And June 28th, Marvel's Runaways, which I'll be hosting that one as well. And so thanks so much for joining us. Stay safe and check back in with us. And we'll see you at Wizard World Virtual Experiences.